Welcome to Dawn of the New Earth. Today, we are talking about the real origins of Jesus Christ in a lost Gnostic gospel called the Sophia of Jesus Christ that was banned from the Bible. And so not only are we going to discover the true origins of Jesus, but as well, we're going to find the true origins of Adam. And it's nothing like what you think. This is going to be really interesting as we explore the Sophia of Jesus Christ. We're going to get right into it. But as always, please hit like and subscribe. And if you enjoy my work and want to help me reach more people with this information, hit the join button right below this video, or you can join on Patreon. And you can see all the different perks you can get access to when you become a member, like members only videos. And we're having a members only video right after this, which is called Are Smartphones Destroying Our Spirituality? So if you want to get access to that and hundreds of other members only videos and other stuff as well, hit the join button below this video. I appreciate it. It helps out a lot. All right. I want to remind you that my 5th book, Psychogenesis, Self and Universal Transformation, this comes out next week, November 21st. It is available for pre-order right now. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then start with book 1, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. This is available right now. And the links to all my books are in the description of this video. And you'll also find a link to my Spotify channel. Go follow me on Spotify. It's very convenient to listen to this information in a podcast format over there. So that being said, let's begin. We're talking about the Sophia of Jesus Christ. Now, this is a very interesting gospel because we're going to take a look at the word Sophia for a minute to really understand what this is about. Sophia means wisdom. But in Gnostic cosmology, Sophia is also a being. And so also, being that Sophia is a Greek word for wisdom, just this is kind of an anecdote here, but if you've ever thought about the word philosophy, the word philosophy comes from philos Sophia, or lover of wisdom, or love of wisdom. So a philosopher is a lover of wisdom. This was coined by Pythagoras, this word, philosophia, or philosopher, lover of wisdom. Anyway, that's just an interesting fact. The more you know. But in terms of Gnostic cosmology, Sophia means wisdom, but it's also a being, a mother goddess, an all-powerful entity known as an eon. And this being known as an eon is named Sophia. So when we're talking about this gospel called the Sophia of Jesus Christ, it's a little bit of a play on words here because it's the wisdom of Jesus Christ, but it's also the Sophia of Jesus Christ. It's all going to make sense in a minute. So we've been reading this for a little while. We got kind of derailed because crazy stuff happened in the news and we had to talk about that. But this is part of a playlist. If you haven't seen the other videos in this, you don't need to understand what's going on. But I highly recommend that you do because it's really interesting. As a quick refresher, where we left off last time, Jesus was describing to the disciples how reality exists at all. And this is well beyond the story in the Bible. The story in the Bible starts with God creating the world. According to Gnostics, that God that created the world is an evil being known as Yaldabaoth, and he doesn't even come till much later. He's a lesser being known as an archon, not even near the power of the eons, the beings of light. So this story of how reality exists is well before the earth is created, well before even the God of the Bible is generated. And so Jesus was describing, and it's very interesting. I highly recommend that you watch it. It was called something along the lines of Jesus reveals self-simulation theory or something like this, because if we take a look at what Jesus describes, it's extremely similar to a theory known as self-simulation theory, which is essentially that reality is a mathematical mind that is simulating itself in various substructures. We have something very similar described here as we see Jesus describe God as this mind that is reflecting into itself like a system of mirrors as it generates different emanations or different patterns that all ultimately are itself, but expressed in different ways. Just like in a mirror, if you're in a hall of mirrors and there's a lot of yous everywhere, there's only one you, there's only one source, but there's a lot of yous from different perspectives. And so this is, in a nutshell, what Gnostic cosmology is a bit like, as there are different emanations of beings all reliant on the one source. So with all that in mind, let's pick up where we left off. Like I said, watch that one if you haven't, because I think it's really interesting. But this one we're going to continue. So first, the disciples were saying, "Hey, Jesus, how does anything exist at all? What's going on?" And Jesus described the generation of reality in this self-simulation theory type of format that I just described. But now they're going to ask Jesus another question. And by the way, I get a ton of people saying, where do you get all this information? Where can I read this? So, if this was banned, how come, how do you have access to it? So these are Gnostic texts that were discovered in 1945, buried near the tombs of Egypt. So these texts were originally banned and outlawed by the church. They were burned. Anyone who had them was, either like banished as a heretic or killed. And so it's very likely that a Gnostic wanted to preserve these and hid them away and buried them. And so luckily this individual was successful, and we have them now. They were discovered in 1945, buried near the tombs of Egypt. And you can read them for free on a website called gnosis.org. That's gnosis.org. It's a great website. I highly recommend it. Really fantastic site. Okay, so that being said, let's get into what it actually says here. So Matthew, one of Jesus's disciples, said to him, "Lord, Savior, how was man revealed?" So remember that Jesus just got done describing how reality exists, how God exists, and God, not the God of the Bible, but the true God, the God of light, the source, the one Tohen. And this one Tohen self-generates itself into a multiplicity. And so Matthew's like, okay, that's cool. We got it. Probably not, but sure, we got it. But can you tell us how man was revealed, or like, where did man come from? Right. And so now Jesus is going to reply, and all this is going to come together. By the way, we're going to get to Christ's true origins. This is all connected. It's important. So the perfect Savior said, "I want you to know that he who appeared before the universe in infinity, self-grown, self-constructed Father, being full of shining light and ineffable in the beginning, when he decided to have his likeness become a great power, immediately the principle or beginning of the light appeared as an immortal androgynous man, that through that immortal androgynous man, they might attain their salvation and awake from forgetfulness through the interpreter who was sent, who is with you until the end of the poverty of the robbers." Okay. So let's unpack this for a minute. They're saying, hey, where did man come from? And we can, they say androgynous man. So we're just like humanity in general, right? Just where did humans come from? And Jesus is saying that this being that God, that Jesus laid out and described in the last video, the last portion that we talked about, this being that is sort of self-generating itself and creating reflections of itself, or as it says in here, likenesses, this being, this self-constructed, self-grown, self-generating being that has generated likenesses of itself, decided to have his likeness become a great power. So in other words, he didn't want it to just be a reflection. He wanted it to have power of its own. And so in that, it says, immediately the principle of that light appeared as immortal androgynous man. And so this likeness became, instead of just being a reflection, it still is a reflection, but it's a reflection that now has power. And this power, this being that is generated from the reflection of the Father, is the immortal human. And it says that, and to be clear, what we have to be very clear about, this is not there's no bodies at this point. This is not a human body. This is not like a human person. This great androgynous immortal man is an all powerful. It's very close to divinity. It's a very close emanation of the one. So this is an archetypal, powerful, divine human. And it says that they might attain salvation and awake from forgetfulness through the interpreter who was sent, So we'll get to that. But essentially what this means is that Jesus Christ was sent to get humans to realize the truth of what they are, which is that they are that divine human is like a blueprint, or it's an archetype. It's what they truly are, but they've been trapped in matter. We've been trapped in matter, according to Gnostics, and don't realize that. And so this is why in Gnosticism, by the way, this is why the God of the Bible ends up creating bodies, because the God, we'll talk about where the God of the Bible comes from in a minute. God of the Bible doesn't show up till later. So this immortal man, this immortal human, this immortal androgynous human is infinitely more powerful than the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible is a lesser being. And so the God of the Bible is jealous of this very powerful, basically jealous of humans. And so this is why, he can't overpower them. So he has to trick them and trap them in bodies and limit their power. And we'll get to that. That's why he ends up luring and trapping fragments of light or souls in bodies. And not only that, but separates them from being a unified androgynous, both masculine and feminine being, splits them in two to divide their power, and steals their knowledge, puts them in forgetfulness, tells them that the tree of knowledge is forbidden, etc. Because this being is afraid of the power that we as humans have, because humans are gods in the true sense of being all powerful eonic gods, not just, which is infinitely more powerful than the so-called God of the Bible. It's not even really a god. It's an archon. It's a lesser, I guess depends how you define God. It's not nearly as powerful as an eon. But anyway, so let's continue and see what happens here, because I'm talking a lot. So, okay, so this is great. So there's this immortal androgynous man that was generated, and his consort is the great Sophia. Now, this is going to be extremely important. So his consort, his pair, is the great Sophia, who from the first was destined in him for union by self-begotten Father from immortal man, who appeared as first and divinity and kingdom. For the Father, who is called man, self-Father, revealed this, and he created a great eon, whose name is Agdoad, for his own majesty. All right, a lot of stuff happening here, but essentially, in a nutshell, what this is saying is that, okay, first you have this immortal man, and then you have Sophia, which is his consort, his pair, because everything in the immortal realm of light, is perfectly balanced. Everything is perfectly and totally balanced. It's the material world that's going to get generated later from imbalance. The material world is a realm of imbalance, separation, division, discord, chaos, darkness. The realm of light is balance. And so when you have the immortal man, you have something that goes with that, the consort, which is the great Sophia. Now, what's interesting is that as we see later, we'll get to this in a minute, but as we'll see later, we kind of have this image in our heads of like, oh, here's this immortal man and here's Sophia, and they're like, lovers or whatever. But as we look further, it's more like that they are a single being with a male aspect and a female aspect. So it's much so when we say that, oh, they're consorts, it's not like how we think of two beings that are separate and paired with each other, but rather they form a singular system but have a dual aspect to them. And this is why later Yaldabaoth, the evil creator god, splits them apart in two, etc. But anyway, let's continue. So he was given great authority. He, as in the immortal man with his consort Sophia, he was given great authority and he ruled over the creation of poverty. He created gods and angels. You see, this is clearly not just a little, so-called weak human. This is an eonic God. This eonic God is creating gods, angels, archangels, myriads without number for retinue from that light and the tri-male spirit, which is that of Sophia, his consort. For from this, God originated divinity and kingdom. Therefore, he was called God of gods and King of kings. So, clearly, this is a very big deal, very powerful being. And if we look at other Gnostic gospels as well, we see this happen again and again and again, where this immortal being that is the human, who is a god, creates all these worlds and realms and heavens. And when the God of the Bible comes later, because the God of the Bible is always like, oh, I'm the only God. There's no God but me. You must have no other gods but me. And that, as an archon, he creates worlds and realms and heavens, but they're not nearly as good as this immortal human. And so all his angels or demons pretty much laugh at him and go, hey, I thought you said you were the only God. But look at this guy. He's clearly way better than you. That's when he gets all pissed and he starts making bodies and trying to trick humanity into being trapped in this realm of matter, this prison. That's a very interesting gospel, by the way, that or book that we've read. I believe it's called On the Origin of the World. There's a whole playlist, so check that out. It's a really good one. So let's see. So this guy's a big deal. He's creating worlds. He's creating realms and heavens and angels and archangels and gods. He created gods. So clearly this is a God of gods, King of kings. Very important, big deal. So first man has unique mind within and thought, just as he is it, thought and considering, reflecting, rationality, power. All attributes that exist are perfect and immortal. So, as you can see, he's talking about how this being, first man, has unique mind within and thought, just as he is it, like he is those things. He is thought. He is reflecting. He is rationality. He is power. So you can see that all of these different Gnosticism is very interesting in that these faculties of mind are given, are projected onto entities. Like Sophia is wisdom, and we have the faculty of wisdom, but we have also, but it's also as like a being as well. And so if we look at other Gnostic texts, there's a bunch of different eons. For example, there's Harmazel, Oriel, Elalith, and Davathai. And I don't remember what each one represents, but it's things like memory and perception, and understanding, etc. So really, and then archons, which are the evil dark beings, represent things like wrath, anger, ignorance, etc., which are also, emotions or false perceptions, etc. So you can see that it's what Gnostics were kind of doing was creating this realm in which we are all like made up of sort of eons and demons in a certain way. Like we have these dark archonic forces that are associated with the material world and ignorance and darkness. And then we have these light aspects that are wisdom, rationality, intuition, reflecting, consideration, power, etc. And so basically what the Gnostics wanted to do to escape the material world was defeat the archons so that they could return to the realms of light. And defeating the archons meant defeating those aspects of you, because that's what they saw the archons as. They saw the archons as the ones that perpetuated ignorance. So overcoming ignorance in yourself was overcoming an archon. And so when you overcame these archons, you were able to return to the realm of divine light. Now we have to remember, today we understand that a lot of this has to do with the shadow self, and it's not so much about seeing these things as enemies or things to destroy, but rather integrating them. That's one criticism that I have about Gnosticism, is that it's very has a very negative view on certain things, where it shouldn't be about like destroying or binding, but rather about integrating. Integrating is like finding a way to work with it. Like if you have an anger problem, it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to ignore it. I don't have an anger problem. Nope. I'm going to resist it really, really hard. It would be about going to therapy to find a way to deal with it, or joining a black metal band to get your aggression out in a healthy, artistic way, or getting involved in a healthy way in activist causes that you care about. That way, you are using that power for positivity rather than letting it destroy you from the inside. Anyway, I digress. My point is, you can see that all these different beings represent like faculties of mind or perceptions or emotions, etc. Eonic beings represent higher faculties, and archonic beings represent faculties associated with the material world. They even saw the body as being like composed of demons, basically, like even like organs and instincts, the lower mind, etc. These were all archonic forces keeping humanity trapped from reaching the higher levels. So let's see. Okay, let's get going here, because he's talked too much. Okay, so first man was unique. He was and had, considering, reflecting, rationality, power. In respect to imperishableness, they are indeed equal, but in respect to power, they are different, like the difference between father and son, and thought, and the thought and the remainder. As I said earlier, among the things that were created, the monad is first. So this is really cool, basically saying that, you know, things like considering, reflecting, rationality, power, all these attributes, they're saying, they're perfect and immortal, but they're different. They're not the same. You know, rationality, reflecting, consideration, power, these are all perfect, immortal, imperishable faculties, but they're different expressions. They're not exactly the same. That's the point being made here. Gnosticism is very cool philosophically. You know, it's not just like, oh, and then there was a snake who said, don't eat from the tree, and they ate from the tree, and then the big guy up there was really mad, and you know, it's very intelligent. Anyway, let's continue here. So, and to be fair, there are esoteric ways to interpret the Bible that are very symbolic and powerful. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking more about like the kind of Christianity that I grew up with, where you don't look at it symbolically, you take it literally to be true. Then it's very silly. But there are very healthy and esoteric ways to interpret the Bible where there's actually a lot of really powerful and interesting symbology. So I just want to throw that out there. Someone who's like, well, no, actually, it's really, really deep. Yes, it can be. It can be. But unfortunately, mainstream Christianity, you know, fundamentalist, literalist Christianity doesn't look deep, unfortunately. And that's where the problem lies. So let's see. And after everything, all that was revealed appeared from his power. And from what was created, all that was fashioned appeared. From what was fashioned appeared what was formed, and from what was formed, what was named. Thus came the difference among the unbegotten ones from beginning to end. Then Bartholomew said to Jesus, how is it that he was designated in the gospel man and son of man? To which of them then is this son related? All right, here's some important stuff. So the Holy One, Jesus Christ, said to him, I want you to know that first man is called begetter, self-perfected mind. So first man is begetter, self-perfected mind. It begets, it can generate. That's why it just said that this being was creating all these things, gods and angels and archangels, blah, blah, you know, worlds and realms. And it's a begetter. It's a generator. That's what this being that is thought, that is rationality, that is reflection, that is consideration, has this power to generate. And this being reflected with great Sophia, his consort, and revealed his first begotten androgynous son. So now we're getting into really interesting territory. So the immortal man and the great Sophia reflected with one another, reflected into each other. And what was revealed was his first begotten androgynous son. His male name is designated first begetter, son of God. His female name, first begettress, Sophia, mother of the universe. Some call her love. See, isn't this interesting? Now you can see it's a lot more clear here that we're talking about a single being that has different aspects, because he has a male name and a female name. This immortal man and Sophia, really, because they're one. His male name is first begetter, son of God. His female name is first begettress, Sophia, mother of the universe. Some call her love. So this being is a singular being that has a male aspect and a female aspect. And they reflected into one another in their perfect union and beget a son. Now, first begotten is called Christ. Since he has authority from his Father, he created a multitude of angels without number for retinue from spirit and light. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. Through the perfect union of the immortal man and the great Sophia, the mother of the universe and the first begetter, as they reflected into one another, they revealed the first begotten, or Christ, who has authority from his Father and created a multitude of angels without number from spirit and light. So what we're going to see here, and this is really interesting, is that Jesus kind of has a dual role. Jesus is considered, as we'll see later, so as we see right here, Jesus is considered as the offspring, or what is begotten from Sophia and the immortal man. So Jesus is their child, so to speak. But in addition to that, Jesus Christ is also a direct manifestation of the one. So because it gets a little confusing, because as we'll see later, Jesus actually ranks higher than the immortal man and Sophia, but it's in a very complicated way, because we're talking about a lot of different. See, so we have to remember in Gnosticism, these beings represent like forces. So not only do we have Sophia, but we have like Barbelo and Alalith and Sophia. And like Barbelo, Alalith, and Sophia are all like different aspects or emanations of each other. Barbelo is the great mother. Alalith is one of the eons. And within one of the eons is Sophia, wisdom. So we kind of have the same idea here, where Jesus Christ, according to Gnosticism, is what comes from the original Father. Like in some versions of Gnosticism, the Son comes from the Father reflecting into Barbelo, and the Son is generated. So it's very similar here, except you have the immortal man reflecting into Sophia, and the Son is generated. So Jesus Christ is a direct manifestation of the one itself, and is very central to the divine hierarchy. But he also is related to the immortal man and Sophia, linking him to both wisdom and divine light. So he has the title of Savior because his role and is to reveal knowledge, reveal gnosis, and guide souls back to the Father through Sophia, through wisdom. So long story short, I know it's a little confusing, and if this part sounds a little confusing, don't worry, it's not really important. I just want to bring it up because right now it's saying that Jesus is the Son, basically the begotten of Sophia and the immortal man. Later on, though, it's going to say a little bit different, that Jesus comes from the one, the source of existence. So just to clear up why that is, he does come from the one, the source of existence, but the fact that he's revealed from the union of Sophia and the immortal man together represents the fact that Jesus is now becoming the Savior, the one sent for what purpose? To reveal wisdom or gnosis to humanity. So you see how Jesus is like directly linked to Sophia in that his role now is more focused. So you can kind of imagine like Jesus as this force, as this archetype, this Savior archetype that's kind of getting funneled and more focused on the idea of being associated with wisdom. And so then is in that sense related to Sophia, because Jesus is bringing knowledge of wisdom, thus is related to Sophia. Anyway, that's confusing. Don't worry about it. But hopefully that makes sense. So, but okay, so this is important to remember. His disciples said to Jesus, "Lord, reveal to us about the one called man, that we also may know his glory exactly." And Jesus said, "Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear." Whenever Jesus says that, that means like, hey, this is important stuff. And most people aren't going to understand what the hell I'm talking about. But if you look deeper, there's some important knowledge here. So whoever has ears, let him hear. First begetter, father, is called Adam, eye of light, because he came from shining light, and his holy angels, who are ineffable and shadowless, ever rejoice with joy in their reflecting, which they received from their Father. All right, so very important to understand this stuff. So the name of the immortal man is Adam, but not just Adam, Adam, eye of light, because this is not the Adam after humanity has become trapped in a material body and separated and broken into, masculine and feminine in symbolic terms. And so this is Adam, eye of light, Adam the God, Adam, eye of light, who is the consort of the great Sophia, mother of the universe. And these are some very powerful beings here. And we see this in other Gnostic scriptures as well. In the Apocalypse of Adam, Adam describes how he and Eve were originally one being. And Sophia is very much related to Eve in certain stories. Either it's the daughter of Sophia or an aspect of Sophia. That's also on the origin of the world. But in the Apocalypse of Adam, they say, oh, we were originally one being, and the evil Yaldabaoth, he split us up. And in the Secret Gospel of John, there's also this immortal man, and the name of this immortal man is Adamas. Adam with a AS at the end. So that's how they differentiate it. Adam is like the physical Adam. Adamas, or Adam, eye of light, cool name, by the way, is the immortal God that Yaldabaoth becomes jealous of and wants to trap. So he comes from the realm of light. He is shadowless. Not only is he not material, he's not a material being, but he has no shadow. Yaldabaoth is a being of shadow. The archons are a being of shadow, of darkness. And so there's no darkness in Adam, eye of light. The whole kingdom of Son of Man, who is called Son of God, is full of ineffable and shadowless joy and unchanging jubilation. They rejoicing over his imperishable glory, which has never been heard until now, nor has it ever been revealed in the eons that came after, and their worlds. I came from self-begotten and first infinite light, that I may reveal everything to you. And this is the part where Jesus is now saying that I came from self-begotten and first infinite light. So basically, Jesus is saying, I came from the source, right? So I know, again, it sounds a little confusing, but Jesus is saying, essentially, the Christ came from the union of Adam, eye of light, and the great Sophia reflecting into one another. As such, the Christ was revealed. But really, Christ comes from the infinite source, the first infinite light. So Christ originates from the first infinite light, but gets expressed or revealed through the perfect union of Adam and Sophia. And why this is very interesting and important. Let me see if I want to read a little more before I talk about this part. Let me read a little bit more. So I came from self-begotten and first infinite light, that I might reveal everything to you. So Jesus is essentially saying, hey, I came from the source. I was revealed through the immortal man and the great Sophia to bring gnosis, wisdom, and revelation so that you too may understand what you really are and can achieve gnosis and transcend the material world. Again, his disciples said, tell us clearly how they came down from the invisibilities, from the immortal to the world that dies. The perfect Savior said, Son of Man consented with Sophia, his consort, and revealed a great androgynous light. His male name is designated All Savior, begetter of all things. His female name is designated All Begettress. Some call her Pistis. Pistis Sophia is another name for Sophia. There's Pistis Sophia, there's just Sophia, there's Sophia Zoe. But anyway, so basically the Adam Eye of Light consented with Sophia, and this revealed a great androgynous light. And his male name is designated Savior, begetter of all things. His female name is designated All Begettress Sophia. Some call her Pistis. So basically, it's just saying the same thing again. Basically, hey, this being has two aspects, male and female aspect. The begetter of all things and the all begettress Sophia, and together they revealed the great androgynous light, which is Christ. And okay, I want to make a point here. There's more to this. There's quite a lot more to this story, but I think it's important to make this point. Okay, so spoiler alert, if you know anything about Gnosticism, you probably know this already. But spoiler alert, if you don't, the evil creator god of the Bible, Yaldabaoth, gets generated by Sophia. And, that might, if you haven't heard that before, that might seem kind of shocking or whatever. And it will describe it later in this particular gospel. It will describe that story. But the reason why I want to bring it up is because it's very, very interesting. So remember, there is really a single being, and this single being is Adam Eye of Light and the great Sophia, this powerful eonic force that is has this dual aspect. And when they reflect into one another and both consent in combining their powers, what happens? A great light is generated. A great androgynous light is generated. What does that mean? It means it contains both male and female aspects. And this is represented as Christ, who is generated. I mean, he comes from the source, but as this particular expression from the perfect union of perfect male and female aspects. So Jesus Christ represents like a synthesis generated from, basically within Christ has this perfect balance of male and female within him as well. So later on, Sophia, or the feminine aspect of this being of light, desires to create something on her own without the consent or with her partner or the male aspect. And so Sophia decides to create something without, again, so this is an imbalanced creation at this point, which is not something that happens in these eonic realms. These eonic realms are perfectly balanced. And so what's really interesting about this is that when Sophia decides to attempt to create something herself without her male consort or the male aspect, imbalance occurs. And Yaldabaoth, the god of the Bible, who's described as, I believe, a great dragon with a lion's head whose eyes are flashing with lightning. Not a good character, very evil character. This is generated. Now, what's really interesting about this is that this is a being of shadow, but he's known as the dim ruler because he has some of his mother's light within him. So he has creative power, but it's dim. So he has creative power. This is how he's able to create the material universe. He ends up creating the material universe and bodies and trapping souls because he has that power from his divine mother. But here's the interesting thing, is that we can understand this as, so Sophia wanted to create on her own. But in this cosmology, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So what happened was she created without the male aspect, so to sort of rectify this, a very negative male aspect was generated, which was Yaldabaoth. Now, to be fair, I'm pretty sure in the Secret Book of John, it might call Yaldabaoth androgynous, but if you look at the characteristics of Yaldabaoth, it exhibits what we would consider to be male attributes gone out of control, the shadow aspects such as dominance, control, power, in terms of like dominating over others, making people want you to worship. He wants to be worshipped, he wants to be praised, etc. It's obviously in a very negative way. So Sophia decides to create, without her male consort, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So because of that maleness was missing, that from that void that is there, it gets filled by this very male creature that's not a positive being. And so you see what's very interesting about this is that when Sophia created with her male partner, what happened was that Christ was born, a androgynous, balanced being of gnosis and light. When disharmony occurs by Sophia creating independently, that void of the male aspect that's missing gets filled, but in a very fractured way. So you see, when Sophia and Adam, Eye of Light, come together in harmony, a third thing is generated, and that third thing is a balanced thing. It is Christ who contains both feminine and masculine. When Sophia creates on her own, a masculine is generated, but this masculine has no, is missing that feminine aspect. So you see the difference between, you can have a feminine aspect here and a male aspect here, and see them as equal but opposite. And I'm not saying equal in power, because Yaldabaoth is much less powerful than Sophia technically. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm trying to get this across in a way that's easily expressed, and it's not really easily expressed. But what I'm saying is that Christ was a result of a perfect synthesis. And what I'm saying, in both cases, there's going to be that balance. That male and female aspect is always going to be there, but in the case of when they are working together and synthesized, it results in a very balanced result in something else, a being that is also synthesized. But when you do it in this way, where one is creating on its own, what fills that void is something that's very much the opposite of what created it. And now you have this massive imbalance where, you got male and female, but they're othered. They're opposing each other. They're not synthesized anymore. They're opposing each other. And, I think we can see this in our world right now. This is a world of fracture, a world of division, especially in terms of gender, where women's rights are being stripped away and men want to dominate and control women. It's a mess. There's a lot of parallels happening here. But anyway, Yaldabaoth ends up creating this world that's very disharmonious. And it's all about splitting up what was once one and united, such as when he finally does trap Adam in a body, he splits Adam into, Adam and Sophia are one being, but he splits them in two, and to Adam and Eve. So remember, like the male and female aspects are still there, but now they're split apart. They're broken apart. And this is what Yaldabaoth constantly does in the world of matter. Splits things apart, things that were once harmonized. You can't just, eliminate them. There's always that balance there. But if you think about, do I have a Rubik's Cube in here? If you think of a Rubik's Cube and you imagine that there's balance, so, think of a solved Rubik's Cube. A solved Rubik's Cube is balanced. Now, if you mix that Rubik's Cube up, you still have all the same elements there. They are just in a chaotic transformation instead of a harmonized transformation. So that's sort of what happens here, is that originally you had these masculine and feminine elements all harmonized together. Now masculine and feminine still exist, but they are very fractured and disjointed and see each other as other rather than a reflection of each other or pieces of each other. So when we take a look at this, there's a lot more to this. But from what we've read so far in this section, we've seen here, which I think is incredibly interesting, is that Jesus Christ is representative of being generated or rather revealed by this extremely powerful being of light that is both the mother of the universe and first begetter atom of light come together and working in harmony with consent reveals this savior who's not here to save people from sin, but save people from ignorance so that they might have wisdom. Whereas the evil God of the Bible is generated from a fracture, from division, and is extremely imbalanced, and thus goes on to create a world of increasing imbalance and disorganization. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I've been talking for a while, so I think we're going to end there, but there's a lot more to this. If you didn't see the previous video in this series, check out the playlist. I highly recommend it. It's about self-simulation theory, which is extremely cool. But we're going to continue reading this next Thursday. On Monday, we'll likely continue talking about magic, perhaps alchemy. I'm not sure yet, but from a rational perspective, as always. But we will be continuing reading from this gospel in the following Thursday. Oh, and that's the day my book comes out. So make sure you check that out. Yeah, check out my book. Start with my first book, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. If you want to help out my channel, become a member. You can be part of our members only video that we're having right now, which is our smartphones destroying our spirituality. And I want to give a big shout out to everyone who supports. I really appreciate it, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, DB, Nusalina, Christopher, Dallas, Digital Tech, Seaweed, David, LaDonna, Grace, Eon, and everyone else. Thank you very much.